Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 743 days, Ukraine defends itself against the forces of the Russian invasion. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy approved former Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, General Valery Zaluzhnyi, to be appointed as the new ambassador to the UK, reports BBC News Ukraine. In his evening video address, Zelenskyy said that Zaluzhnyi himself has chosen diplomacy as next field of work. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine has sent a corresponding request for agreement. Experts point out that it is quite unusual to release information about the candidate for the position of the ambassador before receiving the approval from the other side. The president signed a decree on the dismissal of Valery Zaluzhnyi from the position of Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces on 8th of February. According to the media, already then he was offered the position of the ambassador in London but refused. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba called Zaluzhny's approval a very logical step, as he both wants to work as a diplomat and even has a master's degree in international relations. Kuleba added that one of the key requirements for the ambassador to the UK was an understanding of the military context. London is also one of the most important capitals in the world, where the embassies of the Global South countries are present. Quote, I am convinced that Valery Zaluzhny will be one of the most respected public figures, and he will be useful not only from the point of view of bilateral relations with the UK, but also of behind-the-scenes diplomacy with the countries of Asia, Africa and Latin America, unquote. Anonymous sources of the European Pravda in Ukraine's government said that Zaluzhny will be welcomed at all the clubs in London, and that's how politics is done in the UK. While many social media users welcome this future appointment, others express an opinion that this way Zelenskyy tries to send away from the country a person with the highest rating of trust in Ukraine. UK Defense Secretary Grant Shapps announced during his visit to Kyiv yesterday that his country will allocate £125 million more to procure drones for Ukraine, reports RBK Ukraine. This brings the overall budget for drones for Ukraine to £325 million this year, for which London plans to provide 10,000 unmanned aerial vehicles, majority of them first-person view, as well as at least 1,000 strike drones, navy and reconnaissance. Volodymyr Zelenskyy informed about his meeting with Shapps and thanked the UK for its leadership in security support for Ukraine, in strengthening its defense and the world's joint capabilities to defend against Russian aggression. They discussed countries' further cooperation in air defense, long-range weapons and artillery. We would really appreciate if you could recommend us to your friends and family, as well as share information on social media. This way more people would learn about the podcast and truth about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy signed a decree on the transfer of conscripts to the reserve after they complete their military service term, reports Suspilne. Zelenskyy has instructed that conscripts are to be discharged from completing their military service term in April and May 2024. The decision applies to military personnel whose service term ended during martial law and was extended beyond the established deadlines. Zelenskyy announced in his evening video address that the military command has requested several weeks for preparatory procedures in order to replace individuals in terms of defense tasks. These conscripts are those who were called up to serve before the full-scale invasion, not mobilized, and period of their service has expired, but due to martial law they continued to serve. According to Militarny, the last conscription draft was held in Ukraine in 2021, during which, according to the plan, about 32,000 young men were to be drafted into the ranks of the armed forces. The term of conscription in Ukraine is from 12 to 18 months, depending on whether the person has a higher education. US President Joe Biden mentioned the need to help Ukraine in the first minutes of his State of the Union address, reports Ukrinform. Quote, Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand together with Ukraine and provide Ukraine with the necessary weapons, said the president. He stressed that the aid to Ukraine is being blocked by those who want to withdraw from world leadership, but this will put the whole of Europe under attack. He said the purpose of his speech was to wake up Congress and warn the American people that democracy is under threat. Quote, if anyone here thinks that Putin will stop in Ukraine, I assure you that he will not stop. Biden reiterated that Ukraine is asking for military aid and weapons to fight back against Russia, not American personnel. Earlier, the Washington Post reported that Ukraine's First Lady Olena Zelensky was invited to the Congress for Biden's speech, but refused as she was expected to sit next to Yulia Navalny, widow of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who was seen as a controversial figure in Ukraine due to his comments that Crimea should not be returned. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We're a commercial initiative of just two people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.